Well, yes, the dailies is what we're having next. And for review today, as usual, we have 5 papers. We have the Vanguard, the Punch, the Guardian, This Day, and the Nation. I always enjoy starting with the Punch, and let's see what the Punch has as a major, especially on its front page. And the Punch this morning, the leading story reads, Nupeng, Dangote clash as tanker drivers deal collapses. You could still understand that just early half of this week, the DSS headquarters, a truce was reached, but it looks as if that has fallen apart. And right after that, Dangote Refinery says union membership not compulsory as Nupeng ponders a fresh strike. And marketers urge adherence to MOU. NLC warns refinery against agreement breach. But get more of your story on page 21 of the Punch newspaper. Let's quickly see if we take some other leading stories at the top side or the topmost side of the Punch. And 2027, Jonathan Obi hold closed-door meeting. And you'll be meeting more of that story on page 30. INEC shortlist 14 new party applicants and disqualify 157. And all of that disqualification you can get on page 14. But a story I know you will get on page 23 is First Bank floors Nduka Obeabuna's GHL at the appeal court. And you know this case has lingered for a while now, and that's a major one right there on page 23 of the Punch. Let's see if we take some other stories just beneath the picture of the day and see if we can greet them up. And 5.6 trillion naira debt, energy crisis loom as gas funds hot supply. Woo! I hope it will not increase the sales of gas. But page 22 has more of that story. Court summons mark orders over ADC leadership tussle is another major screamer on page 30. Supporters await Fubara's London return ahead of resumption. And you can resume more of that story on page 7. But the picture of the day is that of the Director General Pharmaceutical Nigerian Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control. And for the 6-year-old suspect, Mr. Paul Uche, during the parade by NAFDAC for deportation of a whole packet of drugs that have been banned inside 277 cartons of potassium. And while he claimed that these were auto parts, and you can see that all happened yesterday in Lagos. Well, that's the much you can take from the Punch. And well, let's see if we get more, especially as it concerns the daily.
All right, the Nation. Let's see what the major story reads. INEC clears ADA 13 orders to apply for registration as parties, while the rider says meeting kickstarts process next week. 157 applicants fail to scale hurdle. Well, you can read more of that story on page 5 of the Nation. Let's go to the top mass. BOA's 250 billion naira for smallholder farmers. And the rider says VP orders fast track. You can read that on page 4. A 54.9 trillion naira 2025 budget goes into effect. And the rider says efficiency is the goal. Well, you can read that on page 4 of the paper. FCCPC recovers 10 billion naira for cheated consumers. The rider says banking most affected. You can read that on page 6 of the paper. First Bank floors Unduka's Obaigbena's GHL at Court of Appeal. And you can read that on page 4 of the paper. Let's see what we have at the side mass. Security, UK lifts red flag on Kaduna. And the rider says Ansaru leader convicted for Kuje prison's jailbreak. You can read that on page 5 of the paper. Appeal court asks chief registrar to sell escrow crude belonging to GHL, others in FPSO Tamara Tokine. You can read more of that on page 5 of the paper. Brazilian ex-president guilty of coup plotting. That's on page 5. Nupeng Dangote clash again. That's on page 7. And the picture of the day, all right, that's the Olubadan and other Yoruba monarchs here during a courtesy visit of the Olugbo of Ugbo Kingdom to Olubadan of Ibadan yesterday. Well, that's all we're taking this morning on The Nation. Let's see what this day has for us today. The major story reads, Nigeria Labour Congress, Ozekome, Natasha's lawyer, condemn Senate over senator's prolonged suspension. And the rider says, Labour, this is descent into dictatorship, brazen premeditated assault on democracy, threatens to mobilize against Senate. Constitutional law, continued suspension is political victimization and unconstitutional. Natasha's lawyer replies, National Assembly clerk threatens further legal action. Well, you can read more of that on page 8 of the paper. Let's see what we have at the top mass. GHL, First Bank wins battle but loses war to retain crude proceeds from FPSO Tokini. And the rider says, a court of appeal, we are determined to protect the crude from First Bank's dissipation pending determination of court case and or arbitration. Well, you can read more of that on page 8 of the paper. NUPRC at 9,600 barrel per day. Nigerian crude oil losses slumped to 16 yellow in July. Well, that's on page 5 of the paper. Let's see what the picture of the day is. 2027 loading, Obi visits Jonathan. So that picture was taken yesterday after a closed-door meeting with Jonathan in Abuja yesterday. Well, that's all we're taking this morning on this day. Let's see what the Guardian has for us. The major story reads, Open defecation crisis worsened, threatens 2030 sanitation target. And that's also the graph of the day. Let's go to the top mass. INEC rejects 157 applications, clears ADA 13 orders for registration. That's on page 4 of the paper. Banks, FMCG customers top FCC PCs 9,091 complaints, a 10 billion naira recovery. That's on page 16. Implementation of 2025 budget begins in September, says federal government. That's on page 4 of the paper. First Bank floors Unduka Obaigbena's GHL at the Court of Appeal. Well, you can read that on page 30 of the paper. Let's go to the bottom mass. ADC splits deepens as faction claims court barred Mark Aregbeshola. Well, that's on page 6. MRA faults attack on journalists, urges intervention. That's on page 28 of the paper. Lagos activates Ebola response system as Dr. Congo battles outbreak. That's a sad one. It's on page 26 of the paper. And appeal court orders chief registrar to confiscate crude on board FPSO Tamara Tokine. That's on page 27. Let's see what the picture of the day is about. All right, that's the Chief Executive Officer of the Guardian papers during his courtesy visit to the Sterling Towers yesterday. Well, that's all we're taking this morning on the Guardian. Up next is the Vanguard.
Yes, the Vanguard is the next and indeed the last paper for review today. And on the Vanguard this morning, a quite different tale from others. And this is sticking with sports, most loved by many Nigerians. World Cup, Eagles demand the NFF board quits if Nigerian fails to qualify. And I can hear many men saying, we agree. But I will agree to take some riders to that. Entire NFF board must go, says Mikel Obi. Olise blames Super Eagles' poor run on foreign coaches. And well, you can just get more of that story on page 8. Let's quickly see if we take some other leading stories at the top mass side of the Vanguard this morning. First Bank wins appeal in landmark case against Nduka Obabuna's General Hydrocarbons Limited. Is more on page, that should be page 8 of the Vanguard. But let's see if we take some other leading story just at the side mass of the Vanguard. Ghana receives Nigerian West African deported by the United States of America. It's a major one on page 6. Dangote Nupeng Bika over alleged breach of Park Ridge at the DSS headquarters. Is another one you can quarter around on page 27. And leaving that to other major stories, ADC leadership battle to remove Mark Agbereshola continues on Monday. And page 28 has more of that story. 6 days to Fubara return, Ibas, legacies, others raise mixed expectation in Rivers. And well, don't have mixed feeling, just read it up on page 14. And citing interest of justice, Appeal Court asks Chief Registrar to sell escrow crude belonging to GHL, Con Oil, NNPC in FPSO Tamara Tokini. And I'll just tell you to get more of that story on page 9. But the picture of the day is more of a mixed one. Just rather take the one beneath. And that is Jonathan received Peter Obi. You know, they were at a closed-door meeting just yesterday, all geared towards the 2027 general elections. And we do know that both men are being they are being sought for by the People's Democratic Party as a leading candidate for the 2027 general elections. Well, that's much you can take from the papers, but we still have a few more time for us to really look at some majors, especially as it concerns those big headlines on the front pages of the Daily. And one that we'll talk about, and one that I felt you read out, is that from The Guardian. It's still depressing to find that we still have open defecation in the country. And well, it's something of wonder and quite an embarrassment that a country having 200 and so million persons, with us being one of the main pride in Africa, we're still having open defecation as a problem. Mercy, well, it's a sad tale, but well, it's happening.
It's very sad one. Like, even Lagos is worse.
Wow.
I remember seeing one footage of somebody complaining that, why would somebody with a complete, but I don't want to believe it's somebody that is mentally stable. You know, we have the people, mentally unstable people roaming the streets. So I feel they might be one of the causes of all of this open defecation. I don't really think somebody that is okay, sane, completely stable, sane, and all of that would openly defecate. No, I think this has to do with more of those mentally unstable people in the streets.
Well, you might just be surprised that they are not mentally unstable, but checking their mental states will be also a best way to really curb this problem. In case they are being arrested, I will employ them just like they did in Lagos State some couple of years back. When you drive against traffic, apart from arresting you, they'll take you to a psychiatric ward to check your mental state. If that will help out in really knowing if these persons are sane, that they are doing such insanity in public, it will help us in a great way. But still looking at more other stories, especially at the front page of the dailies. I know Messi might not be a fan of these, but I'll just talk about it because it carries a whole lot of weight, especially as it concerns Nigerian men. And it's the issue of the World Cup qualifiers. You know, we had a draw with South Africa just within a week when many felt that if we had won that match, it gives us a slim chance of really qualifying. Yeah. But now we need to win the other 2 remaining matches and hope, that's where the fears last, that our other opponents will lose, and just for us to see if I have a slim margin of qualifying for the World Cup. But just like Mikel Obi said, he feels that if, and he says if, there's a failure of Nigeria qualifying, all the NFF board members should go. Well, Mercy, I know the women might not really understand this, but it gives us great pleasure when we see ourselves in the World Cup.
Yes, I in as much as I'm not really a football fan, but I really am proud of my country and I really want to be proud of them. So I really want to see them win the cup. Okay. It's going to be a big one for us. The girls, the female did it, right? So that's the Falcons, right?
Yeah.
They did it. So I really want the Super Eagles to do it. They should bring the cup home.
But anyway, we'll pray they qualify first before we bring in the cup home. Well, that's our only prayers. But anyway, still talking about, still on the front page of the Daily, a major one that's making the round on all the dailies is a visit of no other person but Peter Obi to former President Goodluck Jonathan. All in the bid. On the mind, it was a closed-door meeting. We did not hear snap of, we did not see or hear any information about that meeting. But we know it was geared towards the issue of the 2027 general elections and how both might be strategizing to see if they'll be the forerunner, especially on the main opposition ticket and the People's Democratic Party. Okay. Do you feel this is a holy alliance and one that many Nigerians should, or the APC should lose sleep over?
The first is, I have a lot to talk about this issue, this visit. Because, was it earlier this week, Peter Obi said he was going on a break.
Yeah.
from all of this politics.
Yeah,
And
he needed to treat himself.
yes, he needed to treat himself. So I thought that break was going to last long, because for him coming to announce it publicly, I thought it was really going to take time. I was even thinking maybe it might affect the 2027 elections. But it was so bad that just the very next day, I started seeing his visits to this, his visit to that, and next, his visits to ex-President Goodluck Jonathan. And I'm like, why did you come out to tell us that you needed this break? Or what's the break for? That's one thing I am still trying to get. And going to see Jonathan while you're supposed to be resting, according to your doctor, I don't know what that visit is about, though, but I know that it's about the 2027 presidential election. What do you think?
Well, anyway, I feel that Peter Obi is always having a need to do what he feels will benefit this country. And he feels that, well, his health is a great concern. That's why he took a day or two to rest. Undermining Messi feels indifferent about that resting period, and he feels he needs to settle down. I don't know whether Messi has the number of the wife, and the wife is telling Messi, tell my husband to sleep. But anyway, he would not sleep, especially when he feels there's enough to be done in the country. And I feel that push of, there's still plenty to be done. The people are lacking in this is what's making him have that renewed energy to still push on issues as it concerns politics. Hence the visit yesterday to former President Goodluck Jonathan. But anyway, as much as we've talked about that also, another major one that is making the round, especially as it concerns the Daily, is the issue of Dangote and also Nupeng. Many felt that the whole drama, undermining he did not win any Nollywood award, would have ended with that very big truce that was held at the DSS headquarters just within the week. But funny enough, it looks as if feeders are reaching us that it looks as if that agreement has broken down. And Dangote is insisting that his workers has every right to and not to be part of the union. But the union feels indifferent, and they feel that sharp practices might be meted down on these workers if they are not part of the union. But are Nigerians not going to be at the receiving end as usual, like we experienced early this week?
The truth is, I feel this thing is something they can just work out amicably. You don't need to allow this. Was it about 2 days ago, right?
Yeah.
There was no fuel, no means of transportation, and all of that. But the truth is, this thing is something they can just work out amicably. I remember Dangote saying that it's not compulsory for his workers. And you as a worker, you're supposed to, I feel this thing is something for your own benefit. So I don't see any reason why you should feel like you don't want to be part of the union. Because if your boss is asking you not to join this union, it might be for his own selfish interest. So for your own benefit, you should join, and not Dangote coming out to say it's not compulsory. Anybody that wants to join should join the union. So I feel it's something they can just work out amicably.
Well, anyway, Messi feels indifferent from that. On the mind, she's not under the employment of
Dangote.
No, and also Nupeng, speaking on behalf of the workers. But the truth is, just like you stated, please, that problem can be resolved amicably without it falling into a full-blown industrial action, and at the end leave us in our pains and a whole lot of stress. We'll just plead on behalf of both parties to please see how they can come together and work it out. But talking about working it out, INEC seem to have worked out those that are clear for registration. And we're talking about the recent move by INEC to register. And they have registered 13 parties, including the ADC. And in every way, they've put down 157 parties, saying they did not meet the criteria for them to be registered. Well, it looks as if everything is now taking shape for the 2027 general elections. Messi, 13 parties cleared. We're now having more than 100 parties ready for the elections, and 157 told, well, go and come back and try again later.
Yes, 157 applicants were asked to go and try again later. So does it mean 157 with 100, we are supposed to have about 250 something to 300 political parties for the elections? That's a lot.
We might even think of registering ours. We call it The Mercy Michael political party.
M Squared political party.
And we'll have Mr. Kess as our
No, I'll come on. Remember, I told you the last time that when I become a politician, I would change most of those things you raised concern about. So I feel once we are able to register the M Squared party, of course, I'll come out as the presidential candidate for the M Squared party.
Well, anyway, no surprise. We have somebody that is always there. Every second is coming out as the presidential candidate. Mercy, I feel you have a mentor. But anyway, let's not dwell on that too long. I'm already beginning feeling sleepy on account of Mercy ruling the nation. But what we'll do now...
Okay, you don't trust me.
Well, it's not like I don't trust you. The problem is... Anyway, let's leave what I feel.
Okay.
Because makeup will suffer. But all I would say is that we need to go on a break now. And when we come back, definitely dialogue will be best right here on Viewpoint on Atlantic TV.